Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you this fine Friday evening?
James, I'm doing all right. Afternoon. It is afternoon. It's 1:39. Listen, I got a 3-day weekend because I finished up. I hit my 40 hours at work early this week, so that was good. Especially good because I was out of town. I was 3 hours away. I had to drive 3 hours after work yesterday to get home. But you know what? I'm here now, and that's a fun time. We do want to apologize for not having a show last week. James had some pressing things come up that matter. I had a pretty crappy weekend. That's an excuse. James had other stuff going on. But we are back now, and hopefully we'll not take another week off for a while, because that's the first time that's happened in a good amount of time.
Long time, yeah.
So yeah, but we're back. We're here. James, how are you doing? Before you do that, real quick. There we go.
That's what I'm talking about, buddy. It's the weekend. Let's crack a cold one. Okay, this is actually just an energy drink.
Same Red Bull, baby.
Peach. Yep. But excited. I don't have a 3-day weekend like you. It's going to be closer to about 30 days.
Yeah.
Got a shoulder surgery coming up on Monday. Get this rotator cuff fixed finally. So I'm excited to get that out of the way, move on towards the healing process, and get back after it hardcore when it's all finally healed up. But it's going to be nice to have a little bit of downtime. I haven't had that in almost a year.
And yeah, you planned it pretty well. When does Madden come out, James?
A little over a week.
Jeez. Okay. Well, James I was going to try to keep up with your Ultimate Team this year, but I just started. I'm already screwed.
I'm going to have a lot of free time. 2 weeks there during it.
Yeah, you are. That's okay. We'll figure it out. But we are excited to talk Steelers football for the first time in 2 weeks. We're gonna start right this off. So first off, we're gonna start with a couple Steelers news, things that happened. Then we're gonna get into training camp. Now that training camp's happening, there is some notable news and some things that have been happening. But before we get to training camp, Cole Holcomb and Dean Lowry were both placed on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. So neither of them are active during training camp at this time. I don't expect either of them to probably come back for training camp at this point.
No, it's really kind of sketchy. We don't know all the details on where these guys are at in the recovery process. Cole Holcomb from the severe knee injury last year that was at the minimum an ACL, but I believe some other ligaments as well. Then Dean Lowry is coming off of a pectoral injury last year while he was on another team. So these guys still recovering and finishing their recovery from injuries from last season. Now the third one, Cordarrelle Patterson, he was placed on the NFI list, which is non-football related injury. He's got a hamstring that he tweaked right before coming into training camp. So he's not good to go yet. Hamstrings are tricky. You never know. Sometimes it's a couple weeks, sometimes it's a month and a half.
Yep.
So best case scenario for them is to just take their sweet time, allow him to heal fully. Don't even think about pushing it before he's ready. He's going to be the third string running back in a starting kick return man, and it's okay if you don't have your starting kick return man for a couple of weeks so that he's fully healthy when he does come back.
Yeah, especially the quality that he is, especially the quality of return man that he is.
Yeah, let him heal up all the way. I don't want him limp. It's no good.
Yeah. But we have other exciting news for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. The 2024 Hall of Honor was announced. So if you haven't seen the Hall of Honor, it is at Heinz Field. It is at Acrisure Stadium, and it's a Hall of Honor. You can walk through it. You can see all the things. There's there's memories, pictures, all these things from Pittsburgh Steelers past. Well, every year they throw different players or coaches or people that had to do with Pittsburgh Steelers organization in there. And this year, the 4 guys going in, all guys that I'm excited about. 1, speedy, fast Willie Parker. Number 2, Jason Gilden. Number 3, big boy Casey Hampton. If you haven't seen Casey Hampton recently, he lost some weight. And
good
then
for him.
yeah, oh my gosh, he's like a twig now. Not quite
Good.
Alan Faneca, but still. And then the man, the myth, the legend, Dick LeBeau. Man, I wish we could bring him out and have him coach this defense again, because this defense would be unstoppable.
Yeah, pretty awesome list. All these guys had quite the excellent careers. Willie Parker, I think, still holds the record for longest run in a Super Bowl, 75-yard touchdown run that he had. Jason Gildon was actually the career sack leader for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a number of years there, before I believe James Harrison passed him, and then TJ Watt passed James. So that was where he kind of lined up with things. Casey Hampton was like a 4 or 5 time Pro Bowler back in his day, one of the most stout nose tackles in the history of the team, if not the number one nose tackle. And like you said, Dick LeBeau, his playing career was something else, right?
Oh my gosh,
he was like top 5 in NFL history in interceptions, and then his coaching career just revolutionized defenses. He was the innovator of the zone blitz. So that's what was such an incredible thing for Pittsburgh's defense through the 90s and even into the early 2000s. There was the Dick LeBeau zone blitz, where you just really didn't know who was coming from where, and it confused the crap out of offenses and created a lot of sacks and a lot of turnovers. And it was a fun time to watch Steelers defense, that's for sure.
Yeah, that and the Ken Wisenhunt era of offensive, and Bruce Arians, both those guys. Unfortunately ruined their careers by leaving Pittsburgh. So,
well, Bruce still had some success.
I mean, Ken did too. I mean, was it Ken that we played in Super Bowl, or was it Bruce for Arizona?
We beat Ken, and then Bruce won one.
Yeah.
Bruce had some higher end success than Ken did.
Yeah.
But both some good coaching careers.
Hey, Ken went on to work for Penn State, and then he's currently he's currently at Alabama. As an assistant to the head coach.
Oh, there you go. Somebody's getting groomed. That's what that sounds like.
It's exactly what that sounds like.
Speaking of people groomed, and possibly even having a starting job given to them, Russ Wilson.
I was very curious as to where you're going with that conversation. So
Russell Wilson, QB1 for the Steelers by all accounts, injured his calf muscle. I don't know if you heard this story or not, Cody. The conditioning drill for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's a new strength and conditioning staff, right? This is our first year with this new crew. They decided for some reason that it was a good idea for quarterbacks to be hitting a blocking sled during the conditioning drill, and that is when Russell Wilson hurt his calf muscle.
When are they ever going to do that in a game?
Right? You don't want them blocking anyone. So why that was necessary for the quarterbacks to do, I would probably let quarterbacks and specialists like punters and kickers not do that. But for some reason that was included in it, and Russ injured his calf. Last I heard, he still was not a full go in practice, although the last couple of days, from what I understand, he's getting a little bit more acclimated, starting to go through some of the drills and handing the ball off, just not throwing the ball a lot in practice quite yet. But that really opened up the door for Justin Fields, and he's had all the reps with the first team offense. So great opportunity for Justin to really get the experience with the number one wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, offensive line, get some chemistry going, and really get a majority of the snaps as well. So excited for that opportunity for Justin. I feel like Russ needs some snaps, but nowhere near as many as what Justin would in order to be ready.
No.
Might be something that kind of worked out in our favor on.
Yeah, I feel like what this is going to do, Russ is, I'm not going to say he's just a natural football player. I mean, most of the guys in the NFL are naturally good at football. That's why they're here. But Russ can naturally pick up offenses, I think, a little bit better than maybe Justin Fields will. I'm not comparing Russ to the top of the NFL right now, but I'm saying Russell is going to have an easier time transitioning into Pittsburgh Steelers offense. This time where he's not able to do anything is actually going to help prepare Justin Fields for when, or if you want to put it that way, when he gets playing time with the team. Because I've heard somebody say it on, I think, ESPN or NFL Network recently, and I kind of agree with them for this year at least. I don't think either of these quarterbacks are 17-game quarterbacks. I don't think either of them are going to could start and finish off the whole season. I don't see it with how Russell's played last year and his inconsistency in Denver. Unless he does something crazy here, we'll see what happens. Again, I think that could change. But right now, where I'm at, I'm worried about either one of them being able to perform at a high level consistently, especially when you look at how the season ends. Those last 8 games, actually, no, excuse me. Yeah, 8 games are horrible. So being able to substitute out whatever. I can't remember the last time you saw an NFL team do this that we could potentially do, where you have packages for a second quarterback. Maybe, Boston Celtics. Taysom Hill for the Saints is like the only guy that I can think of that teams have done that for.
Yeah.
So
kind of an archaic thing where you bring the other guy in just because he's a better athlete. Kind of a college thing, you know?
Yeah. Oh, drastic.
I guess I'm a little less concerned. I would be more concerned if they were running with Justin, just because his accuracy seems to be an issue over the years so far in the NFL. I feel like Russ is a little bit more accurate of a guy and a little more polished. So I'm not as concerned about Russ. He's just got to go out there and be himself, be Russell Wilson from 3-4 years ago. And I think he'll be okay. Offensive line, Cody, I feel like it's kind of important to know what's going on as far as the depth, where guys are lining up and who's coming in when. So far in camp, the starting 5 has been Dan Moore at left tackle, Isaac Seumalo left guard, Nate Herbig has been starting at center, James Daniels at right guard, and Broderick Jones starting at right tackle. Now, Troy Fautanu has had some starting snaps with the first unit at right tackle, but Broderick Jones really hasn't been seeing much in the line of first team snaps at left tackle. The backups have generally been Dylan Cook at left tackle, Mason McCormick at left guard, Zach Frazier center, right guard Spencer Anderson, and again Troy Fautanu at right tackle. Now here's the mix-ups as far as this, right? So Isaac Seumalo has had a couple of rest days already. When he's had his rest days, Spencer Anderson has started in place of him. So that means that they're probably looking at Spencer Anderson as their number 1 backup guard right now.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense because Mason McCormick is a rookie. You're not going to throw that right on him. And Spencer's been on the team for an additional year. So really looking like they're locking that in and putting a lot of faith in Spencer Anderson. So I'm almost calling Spencer a lock on this roster right now. And it almost looks like this group of 10 here, and there's 5 more offensive linemen. It's no-name guys. They're not draft picks. They're all back of the roster guys, practice squad guys, right? It almost seems like all 10 of these guys are roster locks right now. I almost feel like when we do our roster prediction,
which is going to be here in the next week or two.
Yeah, that's coming real soon here because the season's starting in a few weeks here.
First game was last night, just not for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. First preseason game for Pittsburgh's next Friday. So this is all right around the corner here. It feels like these 10 are all going to make the team. So I'm excited about it, but I really want to see Jones getting some time with that first team offensive line unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see Zach Frazier earning some first team snaps. But the flip side of that is that all reports on Nate Herbig are really good. Is that his snaps are right on point. He's not missing the quarterback. He's not dribbling him back. People aren't overpowering him. He looks the part. This would be some real crazy nonsense if a guy that we had as our top backup guard last year turns out that he's a natural center and you end up with 2 really good centers on the roster. Those are first world problems, and I'm for us having those problems, Cody.
Yeah, not a bad time at all. So we'll see what happens with that. I like having the depth that we have on the offensive line. I feel like every year I say somewhere different on this team we have a deeper depth, more guys, more bodies, more quality players. And this year it's the offensive line. Last year I felt like it was the middle linebacker room, and then that went to crap real fast.
Yeah, sure did.
But that's my point. Is Pittsburgh has consistently seen every single year what the injuries can do, and sure other teams see it, but I just feel like since we've been, we're hyper focused on the Steelers every year, we're experiencing this just a little bit different. But again, you're right. All 10 of those guys are probably locks at this point, barring something crazy happening. So I'm excited for that. If we switch over to the wide receiver room, Van Jefferson has been running wide receiver number 2 early so far. I don't expect him to have that position by the end of the year. I'm hopeful for Roman Wilson or one of these other younger guys, Des Fitzpatrick. He's been in the league a few years now from Louisville.
Calvin Austin the third.
Anybody to come in and make a bigger name for themselves. Don't get me wrong. Van Jefferson's a great athlete. If he winds up being our number 2, I'd love that. I don't care who's number 2 as long as they perform. But you want to, ideally, you want to see it be one of the younger guys that we're investing in through the draft and everything like that. Don't get me wrong, free agency is another good way to invest in the team. But I want to see something come out of these young guys. So I'm excited to see that. James, you want to talk about fullback?
Before we go to fullback, let's just throw the Roman Wilson news in here since
that's
we're
true.
talking wide receivers.
Yep.
I'm really happy to hear how well Van Jefferson's doing and that he's looking good as that, right now, number 2 wide receiver opposite of George Pickens. Roman Wilson, we were really hoping he'd be able to, like you said, injured his ankle, turns out to be an ankle sprain.
Mm-hmm.
They're calling him week to week. Ankle sprains are oftentimes called week to week, and then a lot of times they miss 6 to 8.
Yeah.
So we'll see how quickly he's able to come back. But just the nature of an ankle sprain, my concern immediately goes to, will he even be healthy for week 1? There's a real possibility that he is not. So we'll let you know on next week's show what we hear on that. Hopefully he'll be healthy enough to play in that first preseason game. But that is very concerning for me because he needs these snaps right now. He needs to be building the chemistry with Justin Fields and with Russell Wilson, and he's not going to get that opportunity. So that's really going to put him kind of behind the 8 ball on his ability to develop immediately in this rookie season. Because by the time he gets back to practice, it might be regular season. And then you don't get all the reps that you would as a backup if you were the starter. So,
and did they say what grade of ankle sprain it was?
No.
So if it's a grade 1, he could be back in a week or 2. If it's a grade 2, he's going to be out a month. If it's a grade 3, we may not see him until week 4 of the regular season. It just depends because there's so many different levels of an ankle sprain. Not so many different levels, but there's a drastic difference between 2 and 3 when you talk about grades of an ankle sprain. 1 and 2 can be dealt with fairly easy with regular, just taking care of it, wearing a wrap, taking some pain meds, icing it, all those things. Grade 3, you should not be putting major weight on it. And he did get carted off, and everyone made a big deal about that. Most people, when they get hurt at training camp, get carted off the field. That's just kind of how they do it. But
yeah, because it's in a basin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The field is way down. So in order to get off the field, you have to go upstairs or up hills. And if you have an ankle injury, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yep.
So if it's a lower body injury, you're getting carted.
Yeah, you're getting carted off no matter what. Let's go ahead and talk fullbacks now that we got Roman Wilson.
Yeah, so Jack Coletto, who's the only actual fullback on the team, has been getting the snaps as the fullback. In his stead, they are also cycling through Connor Hayward as expected. This is something we talked about when Connor Hayward was drafted as a rookie, thinking that he would be able to make that transition to fullback at some point in time.
Brother taking over for brother. Just a Watt brother being taken over by a Hayward brother.
Yeah, right? Just keeping it in the families, right? Mm-hmm. Darnell Washington also has seen a couple of snaps there, which I find peculiar because he's such a mammoth, tall human being, which really typically works against you in the position of fullback. But he's such a strong, powerful blocker that I think he could do it, honestly.
Yep.
Like, I really don't see why Darnell Washington couldn't do it. Yeah. So I'm here for it. If you decide that you don't want to keep Jack Coletto and you're in a situation where you need a fullback, why not, man? Darnell's a big, strong dude. And like you said, he's quick enough to do the job. So good reports on Jack Coletto, though. It sounds like he's actually a pretty good athlete, too. So might be something real fun to see him running out of the backfield, catching some passes in the preseason.
Yeah, I just hope we see something in the preseason. I'm excited for it. On day 3, we saw Rodney Williams go down with an injury to his AC joint in his shoulder. I haven't seen any updates on that. I saw that when it first came out. You have an update?
I got updates. Yeah, he is back to practice, but not fully participating.
Okay, that's good.
So he is running through some drills like catching stuff like that, which is great news. They did bring another tight end onto the roster, which makes sense because you need guys to block at the tight end position, and that shoulder isn't healthy enough for him to do that quite yet. But it's a great sign that he's going through at least some receiving drills and some non-contact drills, because if it was a severe AC joint injury, he would not be doing that. He'd be sitting on the sideline with a big bag of ice on that shoulder and watching practice and not participating at all. So this is a great sign for him that it's minor enough to at least be a light participant. I won't be surprised if he's held out of the first preseason game as a precautionary thing, just to heal up fully before he actually takes some hits and stuff. But great sign if somebody's going to get an injury to be able to already start getting worked back into things.
Yep. Also, Isaac Seumalo got the day off on day 3. We talked about that. No, excuse me. We're talking about Troy. And yeah, both. And then Spencer Anderson getting the start. Again, Spencer Anderson being that guy that's going to, I mean, ideally there's 9 locks for sure. The only one that I'm not sure of for the top 10 linemen is, what's his name?
You thinking Dylan Cook?
Cook. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on him.
And he's basically the backup left tackle right now. Which is funny, right? Because it's like, we would love to see Broderick Jones win the starting left tackle job, then Dan Moore will be the backup tackle.
Yep.
But Dylan Cook is also capable of left tackle. He's capable of right tackle. And last year in the preseason, we even saw him play some guard. So I feel like, they made sure to keep him on the active roster last year because they were worried about losing him.
Yep.
And I feel like he's going to make it again this year unless he just has some awful preseason games. But yeah, interesting to see how that plays out. Now, the secondary, Cody, let's talk some secondary. I've been excited about this. We've seen everything going on as far as Joey Porter Jr. calling himself the greatest corner in the league. The new corner from the Carolina Panthers, reportedly looking pretty good for a short guy. He's so
Dante
fast
Jackson.
that he's giving people problems.
Yep.
Yeah. Dante Jackson looking good so far from what I'm hearing about him. But what's going on behind that, right? That's the big question. Second team corners have been consistently Darius Rush and Kalen Barnes. I'm hearing the last couple of days it's starting to get some other guys sprinkled in there with Kalen Barnes, but Darius Rush is drawing some attention and looking decent.
Darius Rush is quick too,
him, right? Very fast. Yeah. He was like a 4.3 something guy. I'm pretty sure.
I'm looking right now.
Tall, fast, and long. Darius Rush had all that going on when he got drafted. We were really hoping to see him or Corey Trice develop as a possible long-term solution here. Good signs for Darius Rush early on. Corey Trice is not getting a lot of snaps quite yet, and he's running third team. I'm not overly concerned because he is still coming back from his knee injury last year. So it makes sense to not really put a ton on him. But I bet he'll get a lot of burn in that first preseason game because he's just not going to play the starters much.
4.36 for Darius Rush.
Yeah, 4.36. That's real fast for a corner, man. So
that's real
that
fast.
Would be tremendous. Yeah, that would be tremendous if that works out. Another corner that's extremely fast, Beanie Bishop.
Beanie Bishop, baby.
Beanie Bishop getting first team nickel corner snaps consistently. In fact, there's some guys that were playing on previous teams, on other teams outside of the Steelers previous seasons, that actually are gone now because they couldn't get snaps over Beanie. Sounding like he's really good as far as sticking his nose against the run. Again, high-end athleticism, which I think you're looking up for us right now. That was the big difference, is what we had structure, like stature-wise. He's very similar size due to what Mike Hilton was, right?
Yep.
And around that 5'9", 5'10", 180 pounds or so. But also they're saying he's really good at timing his blitzes.
4.39.
Yeah, 4.39. Come on, man. For a nickel corner, that is insanely fast. Usually nickel corners are quick but not fast. That's the long speed you want to see. So when somebody gets creative and puts like their Jamar Chase in the slot to try to get him against your slower nickel corner, actually he's our faster nickel corner. So I love that. I love the idea of a really athletic corner who's also tough against the run. I can't wait to see this kid in the preseason games, man, because all reports are awesome so far, and he has earned these first team nickel corner snaps when there's guys on the roster that have done it for other teams. So really, really promising news on Beanie Bishop.
Yeah. Very excited to see him potentially get some playing time. I mean, he's going to get playing time in all 3 preseason games. So I'm excited to see that. Pittsburgh did bring in an old familiar face, an outside linebacker, Marcus Golden. He did sign a 1-year deal with the team. Now there's a good chance of him. We feel that there's a good chance of him making the roster. The team has gone and made a couple roster moves, none that are super noteworthy or anything like that. And if anything changes, we'll let you know. But Marcus Golden, a guy that we know can make an impact coming off the bench.
Yep. Yeah, and I think with the new kickoff rules, previously you wouldn't have put a guy like Mark kick coverage, right? Because he's not going to be agile enough to do the job. But this is a whole different play now. Kick coverage is almost like a normal offensive defensive play. We're having an experienced outside linebacker like Marcus Golden, who understands leverage, who understands how to maintain that edge on the line of scrimmage. You might have him as your guy on a corner so that he walls off a defender and keeps the return man inside, trapped to where everybody else can come and get him. I almost feel like your man on either end almost should be outside linebackers or defensive ends that are used to that kind of thing. So I won't be surprised if it turns out that Marcus Golden is actually used on that kick coverage unit, because he doesn't have to run 70 yards anymore. He's going to run like 10. So I think it's actually really ideal for guys like him. And it's a game changer because he's one of the highest quality backup outside linebackers this team's seen in a long time. It was a really nice part of that defense last year. So I'm excited to see him back. Him and Nate Herbig is going to split some time for sure, but a real nice 1-2 punch for the backup outside linebackers with him and Herbig. I don't know. Did you see that clip the other day? James Harrison was at practice and he was teaching Nate Herbig his up and under move.
Yep. Woo, I saw that.
I love that, buddy.
Could you imagine?
That.
Could you imagine? No,
he's got a few pounds to put on as far as the muscle to catch up to James still, but I love him teaching them that technique, no doubt.
Yeah. And we talked about earlier, Cordarrelle Patterson not being on kick return because of his non-football related injury. We also haven't seen Justin Fields return any kicks, which is a big thing that people were talking about. James, we have been seeing 2 guys start kick returns on this new kickoff. I mean, this is the biggest thing going into the season is this kickoff.
Yeah.
It's the biggest change.
Difference, right?
Drastic.
Big change. Yeah. If you saw it with the XFL, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's tough to describe just talking about it. It is. But it's more like a regular offense play now. Jaylen Warren and John Rhys Plumlee getting the first kick returner snaps right now with Cordarrelle Patterson being out. So very noteworthy. Cody and I talked about this early when we found out the rules were going to change. We were really hoping to see Jaylen Warren get some opportunities back there. Seems like his strengths as a runner and a quick and fast runner at that, and powerful, let's be honest, would really benefit in that kick return style. Having him opposite Cordarrelle Patterson, I think, puts you in a situation where you don't want to kick it to one guy and you don't want the other. So just kick it, and whoever returns it because both are dangerous dudes. So I'm excited about that. But the other guy, John Rhys Plumlee, is the 4th string quarterback who's also a very good athlete. Ran a 4.55 40 when he came out. He's a rookie, undrafted guy right now for Pittsburgh. And that brings a whole different department of unpredictability, where if you kick to him, he could just lateral all the way to the field to the other return man. And you could set up some really creative stuff with a guy that's got a good arm, like an actual quarterback who can also play as a kick returner. So that could be a really fun wrinkle that Pittsburgh might incorporate in this preseason. And I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, very excited to see that. Hopefully we get a chance next Friday to see what the heck they could come out and do. And gonna be very interesting. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch any of the game last night, but I'm curious to see how every NFL team is going to handle these new kickoffs and the strategy behind it, because there's going to be something. Very excited for that. But we can't thank you guys enough for being here. Make sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Don't cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make James real happy over here. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.
Steelers by